Hello everyone, I am Abhijit Singh from Spire Lab Electrical Engineering Department, Indian Institute of Sciences, Bangalore, India. In this video, I am going to present our paper titled A Comparative Study of Estimating Articulatory Moments from Phoneme Sequences and Acoustic Features. This is scheduled for presentation at ICAST 2020 as a poster session under the topic of speech production. This is the outline of my presentation. First, we'll have the introduction, followed by the data collection process. Then we'll talk about the models and the experimental setup. And at last, we'll go through the results. First, I'll briefly explain overview of speech production mechanism and motivation for this work. As we know, while speaking, we plan what we need to communicate, and the brain sends signals to activate vocal muscles, which cause articulators to move accordingly. And this planning in the brain conveys the linguistic information as abstract units, or we can say phonemes, via motor nerves to vocal muscles. Articulatory gestures in turn modulate the spectrum of acoustic signal, which results in the speech sound wave. In this process, articulatory movements act as an intermediate representation between neuromotor planning and speech acoustics. In this work, we are interested to explore estimating articulatory movement from linguistic level or phoneme and speech acoustic level and compare the two. Estimating articulatory information from phonemes can be interpreted as a top-down approach, while estimating articulatory information from speech acoustics can be interpreted as a bottom-up approach. The main objective of this work is to predict articulatory trajectories from the corresponding phoneme sequences and to compare its results with other setups in which we predict articulatory trajectories from phoneme sequences with timing information and acoustic features like MFCCs. Another objective here is to examine whether articulatory movement is primarily determined by the linguistic or timing information, and if paralinguistic information plays any role in determining the articulatory movement and to what extent. Unlike MFCC, which is a frame-to-frame estimation, estimating articulatory moments from phonemes is a top-down approach and very challenging due to the absence of timing information. This table shows various input features and their encoded information. Let's look at the data collected for this work. The speech stimuli was taken from 460 English sentences from Mocha Timid corpus. The data was collected over 10 subjects, out of which 6 were males and 4 females. The articulatory motion of the subject speaking was recorded using EMMA AG501 machine, as shown in the figure. While recording the articulatory movements, we place 6 sensors as shown in the diagram, and the movement of the sensors are recorded in 3-dimensional space. But we consider movements only in the mid-sagittal plane, that is XY axis, for experiments. Additionally, we also glue 2 sensors behind the ears for head movement correction. From the recorded acoustic data, we performed force alignment to get corresponding phonetic transcription using a set of 39 phones, and an extra phone label is used to represent silences. Forced alignment was performed using Kaldi speech recognition toolkit. The input phoneme labels are represented as 40-dimensional one-hot encoded vectors, and these vectors are fed as input while predicting articulatory trajectories. For PHN case, 40-dimensional vector sequence is provided as input, where the length of the sequence is identical to the number of phones in the utterance. While as for TPHN case, each 40-dimensional vector is repeated at 100 Hz for the duration of the respective phone, thus incorporating the timing information in the TPHNs. MFCCs are taken as acoustic features and are calculated using a 20 millisecond window shift with a shift of 10 milliseconds. Now, we'll discuss all the input features which we use to predict articulatory movements. First one is PHN, phoneme sequences, which is represented as a 40-dimensional one-hot encoded vector. It only consists of linguistic information, and since there is no timing information, we use an attention model for duration modeling. which I'll discuss in the next few slides. Then we have TPHN, time-aligned phonemes, which are represented in the same way as PHNs, but here, apart from linguistic information, we also have timing information. Now with timing information, we use a BLSTM model to learn one-to-one mapping. MFCCs are used as acoustic features with 13 dimensions. As we know, MFCCs are information rich and can contain linguistic, timing, and also paralinguistic information. Model here is the same as that of TPHNs. And at last, we have a concatenation of MFCCs plus TPHNs, thus making it a 53-dimensional input feature, for which we also use VLSTM model. Now, let me talk about the details of attention and VLSTM models. For the prediction of articulatory movement from phoneme sequences which don't contain any timing information, we need a model which can perform duration modeling, and hence we used a Tekkatron architecture for this purpose. There are three major components in Tekkatron: encoder, attention, and decoder. As you can see in the figure, a 40-dimensional one-hot vector is passed to the phoneme embedding layer, which converts this 40-dimensional vector to a 512-dimensional vector. And this 512-dimensional vector is fed to encoder, which comprises three convolution layers and a bidirectional LSTM layer. Then while decoding, we use a location-sensitive attention model to learn duration model. And at the end, we have a 5-convolution layer network called as postnet. And while we do the inference on the test phoneme sequences, a TOPS token is calculated to stop predicting the output. Input features like TPHN, MFCCs, and concatenation of both embed the timing information. Then to learn one-to-one mapping between these input features and corresponding articulated trajectories, we use BLSTM models. This BLSTM model architecture comprises 3 BLSTM layers with 256 units each and a dense layer at the output. Now, getting to the experimental setup. For all experiments, we split the dataset into 80% for training, 10% for testing, and 10% for validation. We perform subject-dependent training, where train and test sentences are from the same subjects. As we have data only from 10 subjects with 460 sentences for each subject, which is not enough to learn alignments in attention model, we adopted generic training and fine-tuning strategy, which is explained in the next slide. In all the experiments, we use correlation coefficients and RMSES evaluation metrics. Correlation coefficients ranges between -1 to 1. Correlation coefficient close to +1 indicates the model is performing better. There are 3 types of training method that we use for all experiments. In subject-dependent training, for 10 subjects, we trained a random initialized model for each subject. Thus, number of models is equal to number of subjects. And in generic training, only one model is trained for all 10 subjects with random initialization. And at last, we do fine-tuning, which is similar to subject-dependent training, but the initialization is not random as we take generic trained model for initialization. Now, let's look at the results. In this table, we have mean correlation coefficients and RMSE values for all input features and all training methods. The values between parentheses are average standard deviation taken across 10 subjects. As we see in the table, in all cases, the fine-tuned models yield better performance, and the reason these numbers are better than subject-dependent models is that pooling data from all subjects helps in learning some common features across all subjects. And when we compare generic models with subject-dependent models, let's first talk about TPHN. In this case, performance decreases as we go from subject-dependent to generic, and this could be due to the lack of paralinguistic features. And when we look at PHN, generic model performs better than subject-dependent models, and this is due to the lack of training data. Relative improvements from generic to fine-tuned model across all features are 18.53, 9.3, 0.5, 9 point three, 9.3, 0.5, and 0.8 respectively. 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 0.8 In this figure, we have plotted the correlation coefficient using box plot for each subject for each input feature. As we can see, concatenated features MFCC plus TPHN yield the best correlation among all, and the correlation coefficients using PHN features which lack the timing information are comparable to the TPHN features. And this implies that the timing information can be recovered from phoneme sequences to estimate articulatory trajectories using attention. MFCC features perform better than both PHN and TPHN features because articulatory information is maximally preserved when speech acoustic signal is processed by auditory filters such as MEL scale. MFCC features, being the most information rich, are naturally expected to perform better. To illustrate the attention weights learned for PHN to articulatory movement mapping in the fine-tuned model, we consider an example utterance. This was easy for us. In the top subplot, we plot ground truth articulatory trajectories for lower lip and tongue tip. The attention weights are illustrated in the second subplot. The estimated articulatory trajectories are plotted in the last subplot. Now, focusing on the rectangular boxes for phones Z and F, we observe that the trend in the original and the predicted articulatory trajectories are similar and also validate how we normally speak that phoneme. For example, in the case of F phoneme, the lower lip should move in positive y-axis, and we can confirm this trend from the predicted articulatory trajectory also. In attention, output is weighted combination of all encoded representations, and these weights are decided by the attention model. At the instance, for Z, we can observe that more weight is given to Z, and preceding and succeeding phones, IY, also have weight, which could help in modeling co-articulation. We also trained and tested our model on the MNGO dataset in order to compare our model's performance with the HMM-based approach. As you can see, the random initialized model is not performing very well, and it's due to the lack of training data. But when we consider our generic model, which is trained on our dataset and then fine-tuned on MNGO dataset, it performs better than the HMM model. So, in a nutshell, we are able to predict articulatory movements from PHN features, and these predictions are comparable to the prediction from features with timing information. And this suggests that the articulatory movements are driven mainly by linguistic information. As we are getting pretty good correlations for PHN features, we can say that attention networks are able to learn the timing information. In future, we plan to utilize the estimated articulatory movements in speech synthesis tasks and in developing audiovisual speech synthesis systems. We also plan to do an analysis on the PHN and TPHN performance with respect to broad phoneme classes and place a manner of articulation. At last, we thank all our subjects for participation, and we also appreciate the support of Department of Science and Technology and the Government of India. That will be all from my side. I thank you for your patient listening, and if you have any questions, please write to us at spirelab.ee@isc.ac.in.